Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a fall cook with me video. If you are new here, I do try to do a cook with me video at least once a month. I think this is going to be my second video because it's a little bit different. Normally my other videos are meal prep videos. This video are 3 pretty simple, easy dinners that I do like to cook in the fall time. Now these dinners can be cooked at any time of the year, but one of them is a soup and some people don't like soups in, like, say, the middle of summer. My husband being one of them. So like I said, these are pretty simple recipes. I think the longest recipe was the roasted whole chicken, and that was only because there was a lot of chopping involved. But again, these are pretty simple recipes. I will have all the recipes linked in the description down below or typed out or whatever I end up doing. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, don't forget to give it a thumbs up because it really supports my channel and lets me know that you want me to make more of these videos. So without chatting too much, let's get to cooking. Alright, so we are going to start with what I think is the easiest recipe, Pioneer Woman's Crockpot Broccoli Cheddar Soup. You are going to need 1 pound of frozen broccoli florets, which I used fresh just because I had a lot on hand, 5 cups of low sodium chicken broth, 1 medium onion diced, 2 medium carrots finely diced, 2 10.5 ounce cans of cream of celery soup, a 1/4 teaspoon of seasoned salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of fresh ground black pepper, 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 1.5 pounds of melting cheese like Velveeta, and 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, which is also 8 ounces, and then saltine crackers if you want to top on the top of that as well. So I went ahead and chopped all my broccoli up. I tried to get all the stems gone and just use the tops of the broccoli or the floret. So basically in the crock pot you place the broccoli, the chicken broth, the onions, the carrots, the cream of celery soup, the seasoned salt, the kosher salt, the black pepper, and the cayenne pepper. You cover and then you cook on high for 4 hours. Also, I didn't dice the carrots, I shredded them in the Cuisinart because I knew I was going to be using the Cuisinart later to shred some cheese. So, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? So like I was saying, you pretty much add everything except for the cheese at this point. Right here I'm adding my homemade chicken broth, and it is a little frozen because I did forget to take it out the night before, but if I'm cooking a soup I found it doesn't really matter. And then I didn't have any other seasoned salt. I did have this Texas style rub, which is extremely salty, so I just went ahead and used that, and I think it's delicious. After the 4 hours are up, you get a facial and you put the now softened veggies into a blender, or if you have an immersion blender, that would work fine as well. I just don't have one, so I put them in my Vitamix and I blended them up. I did make sure not to blend them too much. I've done that before and it was kind of a weird texture for the soup. It just wasn't the same. So blend that up and then I put it back into the crock pot. As you can see, it's still kind of chunky putting it back in. And then again, I use my Cuisinart to shred the cheese because it just goes so much faster. And then I pour that right into that very hot crock pot soup that I have got going on. And then once the cheddar cheese is added, I go ahead and chop up 1.5 pounds of Velveeta, which is easier said than done because this is some pretty sticky cheese. I also probably ate 1 too many pieces, as did Briley. I do try to put them in smaller chunks so that it can melt easier. I'm not sure if I said this already, but I did make this soup before and I did have a problem with the cheese not melting right. I'll explain later what I did figure out because it did solve the issue. After the cheese is all cut up, then you add it back into the crock pot and you cook it for 15 more minutes. just to get the cheese all melted and incorporated into the soup. After that 15 minutes was up, I did notice that just like the last time that I made this soup, the cheese was not blended like a normal broccoli cheddar cheese soup is. I don't know, I think I do a close-up where you can kind of just see there's like clumps of Velveeta in there, and don't get me wrong, Velveeta's delicious, but it's just not what I was wanting for this soup, and it was So I went ahead and took a whisk to the soup, and wow, did that change everything. It melted the cheese perfectly. So I just whisked it a little longer, and then I covered it until we were ready to eat. And as you can see, it is not chunky cheesy. It's chunky broccoli, but there's not like chunks of Velveeta cheese in it. So I highly recommend using that whisk to just whisk the cheese in a little bit better. And then here it is for dinner, served with a side of sourdough toast. This soup is delicious, you guys. And then cooking it in the crock pot makes it so easy. All right, moving on to our next recipe, Magnolia Tables whole roasted chicken. Bubba's, you eating a carrot? Ew, don't show the camera. That's yucky. Yummy. Do I need garlic? Is that what I need to add, is some garlic? Yeah. Aren't they adorable? I always highly recommend having some sous chefs with you. They may make things a little harder, but hey, it's adorable, right? So for this recipe, you are going to need 1 4-pound whole chicken, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1½ teaspoons of kosher salt, 3/4 teaspoons of coarsely ground black pepper, 1½ pounds of baby potato medley or tricolored baby potatoes, 6 large carrots. She does say tricolored, but I just used orange, 1 medium yellow onion, 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 1/4 cup of good quality dry white wine, 2 garlic cloves, grated zest of 1 lemon, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, and 1 teaspoon of garlic salt. So like I said, I just used regular carrots, and I'm kind of glad I did because I already had the tricolor going on from the potatoes, and I feel like the orange carrots just look much better. And then I did add more onions than it called for because we really love roasted onions. So I went ahead and did, I believe, 3 small onions because, again, I'm using my homegrown onions, which were a lot smaller than I expected this year. To make things a lot easier, I just went ahead and chopped everything up ahead of time so that when I was ready to use it, I had it at hand's reach, and it made putting the dinner together a lot easier. So I've cut the carrots, I've cut the potatoes, I've cut the onions, I'm now mincing the garlic so it's ready to go when I need it. So then I just take a whole chicken, I put it on a sheet, I tie the legs together, which was kind of a task for me. I don't know why I struggled so badly to this day. Also, you guys, make sure you preheat the oven to 425 at this point so that when you are done prepping the chicken, the oven is hot and ready to go. Once the legs are all tied, I just rub a little bit of olive oil over the chicken, and then I sprinkle some pepper and a teeny bit of salt. We don't cook with a ton of salt. I do always put salt in soups. I did add some salt to this recipe and the next recipe. It just varies, but I add very little. Like I said, we don't cook with a lot of it. So once your chicken is seasoned, then I just try to sprinkle the potatoes around the chicken so that, you know, there's not a whole side of purple potatoes and a whole side of golden potatoes, but they are all mixed, and it just kind of looks aesthetically pleasing. And then I do the same with the onions and the same with the carrots. I do like to make sure that everything is well spread so that when you get a scoop of veggies later for your side, then you have a pretty even scoop. Once you have all that on the pan, then you go ahead and start your wine sauce, which you just start off with the 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And I start prepping everything. I measure out the wine that I'm gonna add. You melt the butter down, add in the wine, add in the lemon zest, add in the garlic. On this day, I actually used only half a lemon. I was hoping that the kids were gonna wanna eat it. The last time I made this, it was did use a pretty large lemon, and it was kind of lemony, which Ramsey and I totally enjoyed, but Briley wasn't a big fan of it, so I used a lot less lemon this time. I do like it with more lemon, and here's the kicker, the kids didn't even eat with us this night because they ended up going to bed early. Also, make sure when you're squeezing the lemon, if you don't have a lemon squeezer, which I don't, make sure you squeeze the lemon juice into your hand so that you catch all those seeds and they don't go into your sauce. Just make sure you don't have any cuts on your hands, because that would hurt. See how many I caught? All right, and then you just cook that on top of the stove for about a minute or 2. I think it says a minute in the book. Once that is done cooking, then you will pour some on the chicken, and then I do like to pour some on the veggies as well. About half of the sauce is what I use. I do try to get all the garlic out of the sauce, just so it can roast in the oven with the veggies and just smell and taste phenomenal. I love roasted garlic, so I do try to get as much minced garlic out of there as I can. You can kind of see some on the chicken there. And then I go ahead and place it in the oven, like I said, at 425 for 35 minutes. After the 35 minutes, you reduce the oven to 325, and then you can add broccoli or broccolini to the pan if you want that. We ended up not doing broccolini and just doing green beans, and you cook those for 40 to 45 minutes longer at the 325, and then within the last 10 minutes, you baste the chicken with the remaining sauce. So here we are 15 minutes out from being done. We added the green beans in and we roasted those at 425. I just drizzled them with some olive oil and a little bit of salt. They were delicious. And here we are 10 minutes out from the chicken being done, and I'm just using up the rest of the sauce, spreading it on the veggies, on the chicken, just kind of like all over. I just want to use it all and try to evenly spread it as much as I can. And then I took it out, and I was so pissed because I could not find my meat thermometer, so I tried to cut just the leg open and it looked like it wasn't quite done. I called in for Ramsey's help even. He said it looked done, but I was just a little paranoid, so I said, you know what, 5-10 more minutes is not gonna hurt it, so I went ahead and put it in for 5 more minutes. However, the green beans were done at this point. Like I said, these came out so good. I don't think I've ever roasted green beans before. Man, were they delicious. And then 5 minutes later, I went ahead and took it out, and then she does have on here that you should tent the vegetables with foil and then let it sit for 15 minutes. So we did it a little longer than 15 minutes because at this point we put the kids down for bed, so it's out a little longer, but that's totally fine. It all turned out absolutely delicious in the end. Look at that beautiful bird right there. It was so delicious. This was such a juicy bird too. I have no clue why, but it was so good. All right, you guys, now we are on to our third and final recipe, Asian lettuce wraps. This does call for chicken, but we used beef for the first time here, and it was really good. This is another pretty simple recipe. There is a lot of ingredients in this recipe, so I did have to add a lot, so I'm gonna try and say this really quickly because there, like I said, are a lot of ingredients. So you are going to need 3 tablespoons of honey. This is going to be for the sauce that goes into your meat. 3 tablespoons of honey, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of ketchup, 1 teaspoon of white vinegar, 1.5 tablespoons of sriracha, 2 cloves of garlic minced, 1 tablespoon of hoisin sauce, sorry if I said that wrong, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1/4 cup of chicken stock, 1 teaspoon of sugar, and then what you're gonna also need for everything else, for like toppings and such, is 1 cup of chicken. I actually used a pound and it works just fine. 1 small onion chopped, 1 inch of ginger grated, 4 cloves of garlic minced, 2 tablespoons vegetable or sesame oil, sesame seeds for garnish, spring onions or green onions, and red pepper flakes for garnish as well. So basically I get the meat cooking so that I can brown it and drain off some of the oil so it's not too oily. While that's cooking, in a bowl, I mix all the ingredients for the sauce. So the honey, the salt, the soy sauce, the ketchup, the vinegar, the sriracha, the cloves of garlic, the hoisin sauce, the oyster sauce, and the chicken stock. Oh, I'm sorry, and the sugar. Then you add that all together and you mix it, and then you set it aside. And then again, what I am doing here is just pre-prepping and cutting all the ingredients that I need just to try and save a little bit of time while I'm cooking, so I'm not having to overcook something just to cut up an onion or to grate some ginger or whatever I am needing to do. Once your meat is browned, I did take it out of the pan so that I could cook up some onions and garlic together just to get them a little browned and softened before I add in the meat. I also didn't have ginger to grate here, so I just used powdered ginger and I kind of just eyeballed it. I didn't even know how much to add. I just wanted to add a little bit of the flavor. And then I noticed that the onions and garlic were a little dry, so I added a little bit of the beef oil back into it. Not a lot, just like maybe a teaspoon's worth. Once that was all softened and cooked, I added the meat back into it and I just kind of incorporated it more. I also was trying to chop up the beef a little bit. And then once that was incorporated for about 5 or so minutes, I added in the sauce that we have already mixed together. And then I incorporate that together, kind of cook it on very high heat. Again, just to get the sauce incorporated into it. There's a lot of sweetness in this sauce, so it kind of caramelizes a little bit. Once that's all done, I do put it into a pan, and then I just use some iceberg lettuce and I pour it into these little lettuce wraps. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I do garnish with a little bit of sesame seeds when it's in the little bowl you see behind. Just, you know, it's prettier. And then once I put them in the lettuce wraps, I do add some green onions to the top of it because we really love onions in this house. And that's it, you guys. I do recommend eating it with like a fried rice or something. I did not make that this night just because I ran out of time, but it was still good and still delicious. So there you have it. Those are 3 quick, easy fall recipes for you guys to make for dinner. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'll be happy to help you out. Again, I will have all the recipes either typed, linked, or attached below so that you guys can make this yourself. If you do make it yourself, make sure you let me know how it went because I do love to get your feedback. But again, thank you guys so much for watching and don't miss the next Momtoberfest video. All right, bye guys.